What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Wednesday Night Mythic Conversations. As always, I am your host, Jeremy Gerard, a Mythic Legions collector, customizer, a Cosmic Legions collector, customizer, and of course, the Director of Sales and Marketing for Full Horseman Studios, which means all the content that you see at Source Horseman, including all those fun teasers that we've been hitting you with for some of the cool stuff that's coming. It's content that I help to bring you. Of course, I'm also here every single Wednesday night doing this show, or most Wednesday nights, I like to say, Mythic Conversations, where we talk about all things going on in the world of Legions, in the world of Full Horsemen, and it's quite a bit going on. There's going to be quite a bit going on really through the rest of the calendar year. We surprised some people today with a bit of a news reveal, a bit of a teaser for something that's going to be hitting at PowerCon next week. So much to talk about. I needed to bring a guest on. I had this guy on my show it was probably a few months ago at this point. Had such a great conversation, enjoyed the back and forth so much that I decided to ask him back today. I'm going to bring him up right now. We've got Big Dub with us. Dub, hey.
How are you doing, Jeremy?
I am doing wonderfully well. Today, we got to drop the teaser about the next Cosmic Legions wave, which is a mouthful of a wave name. Cosmic Legions OxKrewe Book 1 Thraxxon. That is the name of the wave, but knowing, we plan out all the posts, so knowing that today was the day to drop that, I got to tell you, I woke up with just ready to go, lights in my eyes, ready to post that teaser and get the reaction from the Legionnaires.
I was also excited to see it, and probably Natalie was more excited because for however long the last week I've been like, look, this is clearly talking about PowerCon. This is the date we're at, PowerCon, clearly. And she's like, okay, that's wonderful. I'm glad we'll be there. I was adamant that it was going to be the greatest reveal of all time. So I'm excited for it very much.
Yeah, well, so we're going to talk about PowerCon and Legions Con and everything. You are going to be at both of those events this year, which will be great to spend some time seeing you guys again. But, PowerCon and Legions Con are really our two flagship shows. And it's interesting, kind of the way our event calendar is shaking up is like the first 7 months of the year, really January through the end of July. That's our period where we're going to travel. We're going to go a lot of different places. We're going to hit a lot of different shows. The first time I got to meet you was this year during that span down in Toylanta. And that was our first year actually being at Toylanta. I think I jokingly told you that our plan was that we weren't going to go back and do the same shows every single year. We're going to rotate them. But then, of course, we go and everyone treats us so darn well and we have such a good time that we're like, well, we can't imagine not coming back next year. So we're totally in for Toylanta.
Barbecue at my place. That's happening.
Well, I'm not going to lie. That's part of the reason we're going because we were promised. No, but those first 7 months we travel, and then the last handful of months are really time for us to focus on, certain things. PowerCon, Legions Con, and it's not a public event, but also this will be our first year back at New York Toy Fair. So first of those is PowerCon, which is crazy to think is next week. Absolutely nuts. It being a flagship show, you were right. You read those dates correctly. We do like to throw in those little Easter eggs in there. We did have something planned for PowerCon. So you read those clues right. We put that date right in there, 8/11/23. That is next Friday, August 11th.
That's you know, and then the other thing when I saw that, and then I saw your conversation last week with Trevor, and I was like, oh, it's clearly going to be a ship in the age of the cat slayer. And then I said, I heard what you said, and I'm like, oh, that it may be that, but that legitimately may need a garage. Legitimate, if it's, you know, a 2-scale spaceship, I would purchase, but it would be huge. But yeah, that's I love the lore. You know, we were talking that I opened the rest of my Cosmic Wave 1 today with my daughter, and she sat there and read through all the bios, and you know, I don't remember. I know this is a lot more lore driven than Mythic was at the start, but even recent Mythic, I think it's just so fun, and all these teases, and I think it builds excitement. So I'm excited for PowerCon, not just to see the toys, but actually hear the story.
Yeah.
And hear what's going on. And I think I'm recording. So the video I'm making right now, I opened all of Wave 1. And I say in that, I can't remember the last time that what I am opening is not just a new toy line, but a new piece of IP, because we very rarely encounter new IP these days. So I think you're doing a tremendous job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So we had the ChrisCon show this past weekend, which was our small little show. It was actually really fun. You know, we do so many toy shows that ChrisCon is interesting because it's very short. It's a Sunday from 10 to 5, but like it's in a small ballroom and there's a stage, and the guys that organize the show are on stage the entire show with a microphone doing action figure trivia. They had Dan from Toy Galaxy up there who was like putting his hands into a box. Like, so they had a box, so he had to put his hands in and feel a toy and guess what it was.
Oh, wow.
So the contests, giveaways, it had this really fun, almost like a toy meetup. It was almost like being with a bunch of your buddies, just talking toys and stuff like that. But we met a lot of new fans, which is a great thing. And they came up and inevitably they asked the question, and I'm sure Dub, as someone who promotes the line and records these videos, you get these questions as well, where they say, where is this from? Is this a comic? Is this a movie? Is this a television show? You know, when you said in this day and age, we don't get a lot of these new IPs, it's really interesting to have a new IP that starts as toys, not vice versa.
Yeah, but I mean, how many toy lines that we all are fond of were that to begin with?
That's how it started. Yeah.
That's where
all those
figure market really,
the entertainment aspect came after the fact to help sell the toys, right?
Yeah. I think we forget that, you know, and certainly nostalgia plays a role in for all of us, right? I know when at Toylanta, there were things that you were after that you just have genuine nostalgia for. But also just the playing with things and learning about things is great. I mean, it really is. I mean, if there was a Tales from Cosmerrium, a limited series on HBO in 10 years, that's the way it used to work. I mean, that's how it used to work.
Yeah, and we love the idea both for Mythic and for Cosmic. You know, we're very open to the idea of other types of mediums to tell these stories. Obviously, I've spoken at length on my show about the Mythic book, and last week talked about the fact that that first run through of the book is now complete. But same thing with Cosmic, we do have a story to tell. You are correct in that right out of the gate, it's more fleshed out than Mythic was. So much so, it's interesting. So this wave that's going to debut next week, OxKrewe, this was originally on the calendar last year. So that's a little bit of inside information. This was on the calendar for 2022 because this is the next big expansion story-wise in the line. And the reason it was pushed back was simply because we wanted fans to have Cosmic in hand before we entered this next big story expansion. I've mentioned before that we thought that fans were going to have the figures in hand early this year. When that got pushed back a little bit, we had to make the decision to release Outpost Zaxxius as a little bridge wave. But this really is, from a lore standpoint, this is the one, that's why we started back at book 1, because this is a whole new chapter. It's a whole new group of characters, a whole new section of the overall Cosmic Legion story that we're telling here.
I felt like, as I was reading back over the bios and then went and reread some of the things for book 2 and then the Outpost Zaxxius and then seeing what's coming, it reminds me of the way that a lot of the Star Wars like alternate stuff, like the Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, where it's different. Like, meanwhile, over here is what's going on.
Love those books.
Me too.
So much. So it's funny you mentioned that, because when we were working on the Outpost Zaxxius stories, the two things that were really top of mind were the Star Wars tales. So Mos Eisley Cantina, Jabba's Palace, Bounty Hunters, those books where there's like a central event that happens, and it's all these different characters and their interpretation of it, like how they saw it. That was one of the things. And also the Sandman comic series, there's a book in there called World's End, where it's a bunch of travelers who come to a place and all share stories. And that was the original idea behind the Outpost Zaxxius stories, that everyone was going to be telling these stories. And it went a little bit away from that. But that idea of all these people in one central place exchanging information and interacting and stuff, that's what it ended up being for that particular wave.
Yeah. And within that world building, you can, certainly have whatever you want, but you can very easily have waves or smaller things or special editions that are like from this bar, from this lounge, or here's just some travelers that have, very much D&D type feel too, where this doesn't have to necessarily be a protagonist or an antagonist. It can just be characters that you want to know, which I love. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, Cloud, I'm very excited for the Zaxxius wave too. Callian is definitely a wonderful character. We'll see her again, I'm sure. I mentioned to Trevor last week that one of the things I love about the lore of Cosmerrium is being able to write in-world content. So these log entries that are being written by the communications officer from the Gorgonox, I like being able to do that and just not write it as a normal short story or novel or whatever, but to write something that's supposed to be in world. That's a lot of fun. And it's also enjoyable to drop those little hints. I don't know if you've seen on like the Cabal, people are already kind of decoding everything, and they're like, okay, well, there's 6 members of OxKrewe, and there's this and there's that. So it's really that's been really, really interesting. Have you seen any, I don't know, guesses or anything like that really stuck out to you that either you thought made a lot of sense, or wishful thinking, you just hope that's what we get to say?
Probably wishful thinking more so the 6 members of the crew, but also the inhabitants of where they've crashed, where I'm really hoping for some, I don't know, which is really, as I went through this wave, the alternate head, what I would say the creature head is what I'm getting on all of them, like just the alien thing. And so I'm hoping that there is some sort of very bizarre something from that, especially like this big boy. You can give me all the big beefy boys. I love him, but like the custom you made of him, for instance, that is incredible. Like things like that are just so off the wall, random, that I love, because I have so many Mythic Legions and they're wonderful, but they all are in the fantasy world. I don't have a lot of things that look like any of this. Yeah. So they all stand out on the shelf. Yeah. That's what I love about it. And being a Turtles guy, mutants was always a big thing for me growing up. And so the crazier, the better.
And So it's interesting because Eric loves creatures. You know, his favorite thing to sculpt are creatures, weird things. You know, he's said many times that, you know, the art of Wayne Barlow was a huge influence on him from the youngest of ages. You know, those kind of weird alien type characters and shapes he had in these early waves to almost hold back a little bit because, you know, and we kind of saw this in the fact that early on there was some disappointment that there were no humans in the line, that, you know, a lot of people wanted the typical space marine, and that's what they weren't getting. So, you know, there was definitely in the earliest parts of the line a concerted effort to say, you know, we can't go super weird. Like we can't yet. We can't go so weird that people are just like, I don't know what I'm even looking at. Like we kind of have to ease them into that a little bit before we get some of the most unusual alien-like type characters. But slowly but surely, we're starting to see that.
Well, you could tell. I mean, when you look at the specs and you just look at the details of the sculpt, you're like, okay, he was in the zone there.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like that one has, you know, in the cost per hour, a little extra added in with the sculpting, because it's you can just tell it's almost feels like showing off, really.
One of the guesses that I've seen a lot of people make is I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, 6 members of OxKrewe confirmed. We're going to get the 6 members of OxKrewe." Well, I would suggest that this is book 1. You might not see all 6 members of the crew right away.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like any story, there are certain characters that may play a role in the earlier parts of the story and others that may play a role later. So you never know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm you know, I feel like I don't think this is going to be like a Kickstarter level 20 figure wave, because I know you guys are also sensitive that you can't just we need $900. We need $900. Like that's hard for every fan. So I'm expecting it to be a reasonable but good story wave that's approachable. I hope there's something just really crazy. Really, I really hope there's something crazy.
Okay. Yeah, we are very mindful. We've said many times that insanity of especially the Advent of Decay Kickstarter, we will never do that again. Like that was not a good idea for anybody. It was taxing on the studio. It was taxing on the factory. It was taxing on the fans. So to do something like that was a 30, 40 figure wave, that was a moment in time. And as someone that backed that wave and got those cases in, it was amazing to be a part of. But now that on the other side, I am so thankful we're not doing that, because it would be a logistical nightmare to try to manage that amount of product. Really going, we've kind of said that our goal is to keep the biggest waves at or under $500. Necronominus, we had to push that a little higher. But some of these smaller waves, that's been something that has seemed to really resonate with fans. So that's something that we certainly keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and especially this community, because a good portion of us are also buying extras and parts and so forth. So like this wave was a good size, 15 SKUs maybe with the different accessory packs, something like that. So if you bought that all in and then you wanted to get several extras, it adds up. It adds up. So I appreciate it when there's so that you can just make your decision the way you want to make it. But also, so many of the authorized retailers are great and get it out to you really fast. I mean, I got this wave from Ishwar, and I mean, he had it out to me. I don't know how he shipped it that day at GalaxyCon, and somehow I still got it from him.
Oh, he's the best. He's going to do that. So as soon as we started talking about a 40-figure wave, Joe Vassapolo from the warehouse chimed in and said, shipping room's not big enough for that kind of crazy.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine. Those guys, hats off to those guys. I know they've been working real hard this last month.
Absolutely. So yeah, you mentioned that you were opening wave 1. So we're talking a lot about OxKrewe, and we'll talk more about it. But let's go back to wave 1. This is a wonderful time. There is so much cosmic happening. This weekend at ChrisCon was the first time we had cosmic on the table, and I'll actually show this. Let's see. So this is what the table at ChrisCon looked like. So we had this nice layout. It was a lot of fun to be able to put those boxes on the table for the first time, and the reception to them was absolutely incredible. A lot of people came up who I heard, these are my first Cosmics. I'm a big Mythic fan, but I decided to kind of pass on Cosmic, and seeing them, I have to get them now. And they would buy the whole wave. So that was absolutely incredible to see. And then we also had these displays up. We had a nice big display of Cosmic. Actually, that display was all my stuff. So I brought that and put that on display. So really, really well received. You have them in hand now. So I'm curious. You've shown us a few. You've shown us Slog and the Sphexian. Out of the box, you've opened the wave. I'd love to know who's your favorite, who's your sleeper, one that you didn't expect to love so much. Who's one that you got to go back and buy more of?
So I'm just going to disqualify Slog just because he's always going to be big, beefy boys are always going to be the trolls. They're just my favorite. I think surprisingly, this Oleg, I like a lot more than I thought I would. And I think it's just all of the scaling and the colors is just exceptional. Mm-hmm. So I think he's my favorite without Slog. The sleeper, I mean, I don't know. Can you really call her a sleeper? I mean, she's amazing, but
Gary,
is that really a sleeper? I mean, I don't think I would have picked her to be one of my favorites, but she definitely is. And I think there's so many different options. And this is the guy I'll buy a bunch of. I think, although I will ask your opinion, do you think which of the two do you think will take color easier for customizing?
I think the Sentry will probably take color easier because of the darker color.
Yeah.
He's the one. So we sold out of Sentries at ChrisCon this past weekend. He's the one that a lot of people are going for because he is the most human looking. Obviously, the science officer, you've got those legs that have the animal-like kickback.
Oh, yeah.
And they also have the 2-fingered hands. Now,
yes.
What's interesting is, I don't know, I've seen some people mention this, but if you buy the Tusk hand pack that comes with all those extra hands, there are actually hands in the Tusk hands pack that are white that have the regular number of fingers.
Oh.
So you can replace those 2-fingered hands on this figure if you want a little bit more of a human-like look. It's interesting. My friend Len from Wolf King Customs, everyone's talking about the Sentry, and this is the one that he loves the most. The science officer is his absolute favorite.
This is the only one that I've actually already bought more of, the science.
Okay.
And I think so. I think I agree with you. The Sentry, if I'm gonna take it apart and paint it, but this one, I think, just getting a bunch of creature heads and just painting those on this body as it is.
Yeah.
Let the crazy head be the focal point. Is what I like. I don't even know just an army of that I think would be fun. The other thing that I was surprised by, I love this alternate head.
Yeah.
I love that. The third eye. I love that alternate head.
So you know what's funny? Look at that head. If you've ever seen the test shot of that head, because when you look at that head, the first thing you focus on is the eyeball, right?
Yes.
If that circle is not painted like an eyeball, you almost see a pair of eyes where what the nasal cavities would be are.
Oh.
And if you paint that eyeball instead like a gem or whatever, like something that's in the forehead of the character, it totally transforms the head from a cyclopean type character to a very different looking alien.
Oh, I see that. Have you done that? Or
I have not. I have not painted that one, but because when I saw the test shot of the head, I had never seen that different look, but the head transformed by seeing it. And immediately I said, okay, that's going to be, whether it's a custom I do or whether it's maybe down the road, a new use of that head, because certainly we're going to repaint it at some point.
And I will say, I commend, I don't think this is placebo. It feels like just some of the, I don't know if it's the joints themselves, but the 2.0 bodies feel a lot more sturdy than in the past. I'm assuming that's intentional. Something was done with design, but I don't have any problems getting these to stand up, hold their poses, and I know that's a challenge with some of the other ones with the Mythics.
Yeah, certainly. I know that they redid some of the work on the ankles for Zeri to try to firm those up. The ankles on the 2.0 has always been a piece that we knew needed some extra attention. So that's certainly been addressed on this one here.
And then so what I will be most curious about is to see when people really start getting into customizing.
Yeah.
Because I look at this and I go, okay, what are you even going to do to this? Like it already feels like a custom to me.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like that. It's, I just don't know. I'm interested to see what people turn it into.
Yeah. It's the customizing of Cosmic so far has been interestingly predictable. And I don't mean that in really a negative fashion, because, we've got to do the low-hanging fruit. Yeah. So, Emil just put out a whole bunch of heads through Wolf King Customs, and it was helmets. It was Space Marine type helmets. That absolutely makes a lot of sense. I've seen a lot of big-eyed aliens. I've seen other bug heads for the Sphexian. So it's been cool to see that. What I'm more excited for is when we see stuff that we just don't expect.
Yes.
Something like, the Sphexians are already bugs. I'm really excited to see someone take those builds, and they may end up pulling the wings off or whatever, but build those new figures into something that is not bug-like, something we didn't expect at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. What can they turn that into? So like Emil, like the Mario and Luigi and the Bowser that he's shown this week that are incredible. Like you look at the dwarf that he took at first, and then you look at Luigi and you're like, that's amazing. Like that it went once folks start getting to that level where that's where I just can't wait to see.
Yeah, he is endlessly creative when he does his tribute customs, the stuff he comes up with.
I need LegionsCon to issue a line of credit so that I can just go around the tables. I need to get the Nazgul. I need to get the Nintendo tribute set. All of
it. So the other thing that was at ChrisCon this weekend that will obviously be at LegionsCon are these two guys. So I have had Operative 83 on my shelf behind me for a couple weeks now, and no one caught it back there. But then I didn't actually have Scourge on the shelf until this weekend. Chris brought this to me when he came down for his visit. But we dropped both of these along with Demistros on the table at ChrisCon so people could actually see them in person. These are production pieces. These are literally pulled from the cases that are going to PowerCon because, of course, I needed them for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
So that's why I have them, of course. But these are definitely fun to already have some of these new ones in hand. And I guarantee you that at PowerCon, these are going to be ones that people are going to be just salivating over.
So he's on the same body as Kragnar, is that right?
He is. So this I mean, this obviously is very, very similar to the Arachagore figure
Mhm.
from the Poxus wave, but that figure and this figure, it is the same overall build that you find on Kragnar. So obviously on this particular figure, the lower legs are the mythic lower legs. So these are the ones that debuted on Arachagore as opposed to the ones on Kragnar. But the upper legs, the feet, the all the body, all of that is the same as Kragnar.
Does he have the ports on his back for the
He
arm?
does. He does. So Kragnar
Oh.
comes with,
Yep.
plugs. So this has the plugs already in. So, we were talking about that at ChrisCon this weekend. We were like, if someone, because this is the same figure that's going to come in the Outpost Zaxxius wave. The only difference is the package that you're going to get at PowerCon is we don't have all the Outpost Zaxxius art done yet. So that package is specific to this release. So if you compare the two of them, the boxes are going to look a little bit different, but the figure inside is the same. So once the full release comes out, if you have two Scourge, you could pull those plugs in the back out and give them 4 arms if you wanted.
Oh, those are going to be for big wings.
Then you can do that too. Yeah, you can pull those out and put wings. And I mean, you mentioned about Scourge, so you can pop the head off, and it actually does come with that second head that's just like the Kragnar head.
Yes.
And then people were asking if they could paint this one, if this would fit on Kragnar, paint it orange and have yet another Dragoseer type variant in orange, and you could absolutely do that as well.
Now, so in the past with Mythic, PowerCon tribute figures aren't as much in the lore, right? They're not kind of now, but these are in a wave. I just don't remember. I'm trying to remember, but it feels like a lot of the PowerCon were in an all-star wave, usually, not like a themed wave.
Not a themed. So the more recent PowerCon ones have been. The first ones, I mean, Keltis and Adamon were part of the Coliseum wave.
Yes.
We got to a point, and then actually after that, Chronaut and Purplore were part of the Wasteland.
Yes.
So it wasn't until after that we started putting them in All-Stars, and it was more a practical decision that we just needed a place to start dumping them. And All-Stars got to a point that it became a regular thing. So regular All-Stars, regular PowerCon need, it kind of just came together. You are right that those characters are not part of the lore. They're fun tribute characters. They're fun toys to have. But when you read the book about Mythic Legions, about Mythos, none of those characters are going to play a role or really even be mentioned. It is going to be the same with Cosmic. So even though we wrote them into Outpost Zaxxius, they don't really interact with any characters in any kind of an important way. The way those stories were written is the character in one story interacts in some way with the character from the next. Callian bumps into Operative, and then Scourge yells at some Sphexians. So the interactions are so incredibly minor that they're not impactful. We imagine them almost, I guess, being a little pocket universe of their own, where they're having their adventure, but in the grand scheme, they're not going to have a major impact.
I will appreciate you not retconning that one day. My wallet will too, because I'm a bit OCD with my collection, and the Motu tributes have their own.
Yep.
And I don't need to get 2 of any of the, especially some of those old ones. We don't need to go back and have to get a double. I love the colors on those 2, especially. They just pop.
Yeah, so I've long said that the PowerCon figures are not my favorites in the line. I have very few of them on display kind of as the PowerCon figure, like very few. These I'm going to display as is, because I really do feel like, the bold colors that Motu is known for, these are homage figures. So we're making them to look representative of these other characters. I feel like the colors work really well in Cosmic in a way that they don't blend in Mythic.
I was going to say that. I think that's one of the things I appreciate the most about Cosmic is basically any color can show up in the sci-fi universe. And like that one, the operative, those colors outside of maybe a wizard they feel out of place in a Mythic universe. Maybe if it's the spells or the cloak of a wizard, but which we certainly have coming. But that's I love having the dynamic colors and I just love it. I love it.
So Star is saying, you know what might really help with keeping locations of systems in the narrative straight? A star chart. So if you've heard me talk to Eric about this, Eric has said that the Mythic Legion story really, like everything's relation to each other, really started to solidify once they worked on the map of Mythos. He absolutely wants to do something like that for Cosmerrium, to do, a star chart or a chart of the 5 rings. It's on our growing list of things that need to get done. It's pretty high on that list, but sometimes real production type stuff, we've got to get some boxes done so we can ship some figures. So those tend to take priority, but Star, trust me, it is higher on our list of things to do.
So and you may not be able to answer this, but like in the world of the book and the things like the pins and the posters and the ancillary products, it feels like as these worlds grow, there's certainly more of an opportunity for related merchandise. Those types of things. Is that things that are in? I'm sure it's in consideration to some extent because it's a business and you want to make money. Because I think, especially Cosmic, all of this is just lends itself to having supporting merchandise. Whatever that may look like.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. The reason you are likely to see supporting merchandise is because we want it. Yeah. Like, literally, we make things because we think they're cool and we want them ourselves. It's funny. Like, if you look at, like, for instance, Eric, he wears Legion shirts. He has, the print hanging in his house and everything. He's got a skate deck hanging in his house. That he does that because we made them, because he thinks they're cool. We think they're cool. So the short answer is yes, we are going to do more stuff like that. The fact that the fans support it enough to make it feasible, that it's something that we can do. The great thing is, at the end of the day, we're a toy company and we're doing well with our toys. So we can do some of these other things and they don't need to pay the bills. We can do projects that don't make us a ton of money, but really do get some cool product out there into the fan base, that the fans who want to expand, because the reality is there are some people that find it hard just to keep up with the toys. So the idea of buying a skate deck or a print or something like that may not be appealing to them. But for those who do want that stuff, absolutely, it's something we are excited to be able to offer.
Yeah, I think about the things that my family buys, and for our favorite IPs, and certainly we buy a lot of action figures, and you can't see the whole room, but there's stuff everywhere. Yeah. But we also buy just a lot of shirts or art or stickers or photo. I hope even if it's November, I hope Trevor still has calendars. I'll buy because I just want to support the brand, right? Sure. You want to help contribute to all facets, to all contributors. So I'm excited about that. I think there's a market for it.
Yeah, I agree completely. And without revealing too much, you're going to see some of that at PowerCon next week.
It's exciting.
Yeah, we've got some cool stuff coming. So, all right. So PowerCon next week, so I will be leaving my house next Tuesday to head to the studio. The one piece of bad news is I won't be doing the show next Wednesday, because Thursday morning, bright and early, Jim and I are in a truck and we're headed to Ohio. So You are driving down for PowerCon as well. You're planning on being there when? On the first day of the event, Friday?
Yeah, we're gonna leave Thursday as soon as we can get out of work, whenever that is. So the earlier the better, but we'll see. And we're gonna stay with our friends Josh and Karina, and they live in the Dayton area. So we'll stay with them Thursday night. Get up, bright and early. We're actually gonna go do an escape game.
Oh,
Friday morning, right across the street, actually, from the convention center, like directly.
that sounds horrible. That sounds really bad. I don't understand escape rooms at all. Being lost is one of the things. The advent of GPS, in my opinion, is one of the greatest inventions ever. Because the idea of being lost, I get so worked up about it that paying someone to put me in a room where I have to figure out how to get out, that sounds horrible, but I hope you have a great time.
It is. It's a thing that we do like to do. And I tell you what, we did one for something for Kaya recently. You had to actually pick a lock, like really pick a lock. They had a book on how to do it. We did not escape from that one. It was like Houdini's. I'm like, oh my goodness, like we're not going to do this, but we're going to do that, and then we're going to come over. So that's at like 10:30, and then we're going to come over once the show opens, and be there the whole day and have a good time. We're actually going to get a hotel and stay in Columbus that night. So make it a big full day.
So Trevor said that he's got a calendar with your name on it.
You're the man, Trevor. Thank you. I would love that.
A couple people in here have also been commenting that you're going to have a whole collection of dragons with wings. So I guess that you're excited for these.
I would love to have. I mean, I am a big dragon fan, big dragon fan, all the way, because again, Hobbit is my first love, my first fandom. You know, my earliest real memory is my older sister reading The Hobbit to me, and so Smaug has been number one for a long time. I love Game of Thrones, and it made me happy when somebody asked George Martin if Drogon would defeat Smaug, and he was like, Drogon's like 10, Smaug's like 4,000 years old. He would just eat him instantly. I'm like, yes, Smaug's the one. I love dragons, so that's
good. Okay,
good.
I totally off topic then, but did you like Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power?
So I would not say I didn't like it. I think it was interesting. I also think they're adapting interesting source material that I don't know lends itself as well. We watched it and enjoyed it. We had a good time. It was fun as a Kaya was out on it. I think it was a little too deep, but Natalie and I enjoyed it, and especially the end. Once it got going. I'm going to keep watching it. Is it my favorite Tolkien thing? No. I'm also not. I know in the world of fandom, a lot of us are, but I am not the person that says that's not my Lord of the Rings. So that's like we want these brands to keep making content and money. And we just saw Ninja Turtles Monday night. It was wonderful. Is it my Ninja Turtles from the 80s? No, but we had a great time as a family, and there was a bunch of little kids that loved some Ninja Turtles. That's great. So I mean, it wasn't my favorite thing ever. We didn't watch it immediately as it came on. We kind of waited till we had a few to watch. But I mean, I would say I liked it. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. So I'm like you. I'm not a purist. I can watch things specifically for what they are. That being said, I'm not intimately familiar with the source material that it's, recreating there. But my wife and I watched it and absolutely loved it. I'm very excited for the next season.
I think the second season is going to be a pretty big jump up too, because they had to do quite a bit of world building.
They did,
in a world that most viewers are familiar with, but not familiar with that part of it. So that's hard. That's a hard challenge as a storyteller.
It is. And I mean, it's a challenge, when you're creating anything, and, we deal with this as well with our properties. You want to, do something that appeals to the diehard fans, but you also have to make it accessible for people that have no idea what this is. Because at the end of the day, if you're not growing the fan base, it's going to always be shrinking, because there's inevitably people that are going to be leaving the fan base if for no other reason than, unfortunately, we're all mortal beings and we die. Right. So it's kind of blunt, but that's the reality. You got to keep growing. And we even think about that like when we do these waves, and I've talked about in the past that there are some fans that are like, please slow down. I need a break. And there's other fans that are like, more, more, more. We announce a new pre-order and they're like, yes, more. And we try to consider that in everything that we do, but it's tough because we have a lot of fans. We're super fortunate that we have a lot of fans that buy everything we put out and that buy multiples of it. But we also have some fans that very much pick and choose, and they buy one figure from a wave. We have some fans that only do Cosmic, some that only do Mythic. So when you're kind of planning out the schedules, you almost can't do the extremes. Like you can't look at the person that's going to buy multiples of everything and plan for their needs, nor can you look at the person that's only going to buy one figure and plan for theirs. You kind of have to find that happy medium and make plans that hopefully touch on as many people and work for as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's I do a lot of statistical modeling for work. So that's you take the big and you throw it out, and you take the low and you throw it out, and you look at what is actually occurring. That's I've thought about that with all the things that you guys make. The common complaint is, why is there always a Spider-Man, or why is there always a Batman? Well, there always has to be, because there always is someone new that needs that figure. Do you view it's probably not characters, but is there types of figures that are we need to make sure that there's pretty regularly something that fits that role of, this is the character that is easy for somebody to get in the line with? Is that thought about in production?
A little bit, maybe a little bit differently though. We do try, when we plan out waves, to think about builder type characters, and I don't mean Legion builder. A character like the Skeleton Raider or Sir Enoch in the All-Star 6 wave. Both of those lend themselves really well to buying multiple, to pop and swap, mix and match, and do all that. And no surprise, guess what the number 1 and number 2 sellers in that wave were? It was those two figures, because of multiple purchases. So whenever we do a wave, we are mindful of figures that fans are going to be able to build out and use in different ways. The customizing community, the community of people that army build and buy multiples, they cannot, they play a major role in the success of the lines. So that is something we do absolutely consider. But beyond that, I would say it's almost the opposite, where we don't say we've got to have a Spider-Man, we've got to have a Batman, or even we've got to have a Skeleton, we've got to have a Knight. We do look at the opposite and say, what haven't we done in a while? Like, oh, we haven't done this type of character in a while. Maybe it's time to integrate and find a way to get that character class or that race back in a wave, because it has been too long. So we do look at it from that perspective. But then there are other times, like what's going on with OxKrewe, where we have a story to tell, and the figures that are going to be released are very much part of that story. The story dictates who's in the wave, not, vice versa.
Well, I thought, like with Oleg, is there ever been a character released in 2 different looks?
Not that quickly together.
Even period. Forget simultaneously. You've got some 2.0s that started to come, but that's, if he is seeming to be a pretty main protagonist of the story, just curious. It's like, oh, are we going to see now this is Oleg withered away after whatever?
So the only 2 we've ever done are Baron Volagar and Artemis Silvercord. So both of those I consider different than like Gideon Heaven's Brand 2 or Attila Leosair 2, because Gorgo 2, those are genuine updates on that character. Yeah. Whereas Artemis 2, that's 2 different points in time for Artemis. The original one is Artemis at her coronation. The more recent one from the Alithia wave is more the standard, like adventuring type Artemis type. That's the look there. Baron Volagar is a different story. Baron Volagar, that first one was so early in the line that they just kind of wanted to do a Black Knight. They gave him the name Baron Volagar. They gave him that story, but there wasn't much beyond that. He became a character that had some importance. So the new look is more appropriate to how Eric would imagine that character being. So what I ended up doing, and I talked about this on the night that I read the Covenant of Shadow part of the story, we wrote that first look into the book as his traveling attire. So that's how he looked when he was kind of being nondescript and just trying to, be under the radar. And then there's a later chapter in the book where Baron Volagar comes back, and we reference the fact that he looks a lot different and his armor is more innate and everything. So we've worked that into the story. But you are right, beyond those two, this is the first time, especially, like I said, within one wave, that we see two distinct looks of one character. And it points to the importance of this character in the story and the importance of story itself in the rollout plans for Cosmic Legions.
And I think you guys did a great job of making them unique enough where it doesn't feel, well, it's just the same character, just with, an extra gun and a shirt. They feel unique to each other from my perspective, which I think is great. And I think what excites me about that is, in listening to you talk, I would imagine that the success of the initial couple waves in Kickstarter, maybe things weren't as mapped out to the level that it feels like Cosmic already is. I'm sure you've got bones of quite a bit of story and where these characters going that you've had to kind of, like you said, with Baron Volagar, kind of retcon in because of, different opportunities. And that's exciting to watch, things evolve. Because there's a lot of characters here that are beloved and not just because they're expensive, like an Atlas or something. And, we haven't checked in with Atlas in a while. I don't know what old Atlas is up to these days.
Sure.
But I feel like we're gonna know a lot about what some of these characters are up to for a while.
Yeah. So I did see some comments in the thread here, and it is an interesting aspect of Cosmic that we've talked about quite a bit. It's really cool, and you alluded to this at the beginning, to be in on the ground floor of this property, of this line. Even though this was solicited 2 years ago, crazy, but Cosmic Legions 1 made its debut at PowerCon 2021. So the fact that OxKrewe is going to be revealed and the pre-order is going to start at PowerCon 2023 is really kind of a full circle type moment. But the fact that this wave is fully available from our incredible family of retailers, you can go online right now and order any of the Cosmic Wave 1 figures. And as you were talking about, wonderful retailers like Ish and many others, they'll get them to you quickly and you can have these figures in hand. So you compare that to Mythic Legions, where some of the reason why some people stay away, and I'm sure you've heard this as well, is it's too much. It's too much. It's too hard. I'm a collector. I want all of it. I can't have all of it with Mythic Legions unless I dig super deep in my pocket, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think I could. The video I made a few months ago, kind of talking about how I get started with Legions. I feel like I could make that video every 3 months and just put it in my comment section.
Yeah.
Oh man, I looked these up on eBay, and they're that much. I'm like, well, so is Fing Fang Foom. Yeah. If you look up Marvel Legends, that's the way collecting works.
Yep.
But if you pay attention and you buy them directly from, some of them are $25. They're way less expensive. But I do. I think everybody that's watching this knows that. But anybody that may watch it on a replay, I don't think these things are going to be available 6 months from now widely. I think this wave is going to get bought up and disappear.
Yeah.
Once, especially PowerCon, there's going to be a lot of eyes on them. Because there's a lot of people going to PowerCon, I'm sure, to also go see the NECA Turtles display or the Super 7 Cat Slayer or the other big things that'll probably be there. And they're going to come across this for the first time and go, oh, what's that? I want that. I'm going to buy that. So I think, and I believe you said in the past, Wave 2 is not far behind. You know, that's a you know, maybe by the end of the year type thing.
For the second wave?
Yeah, the next wave. Yeah, that's pretty.
Oh
cool.
yeah, absolutely before the end of the year for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean we've gotten. So we'll have at PowerCon in the display case, one of the display cases, I should say, we will have like painted shots from painted up masters from the factory of the Grave Knight. You know, we are at the point where we are finalizing these last few pieces of approvals before full production can begin. And I mean, part of the production's already begun, you know, like the way it works is when all of these parts are being injection molded, if we have a piece that we're having a problem with, they don't hold all production until every single thing is approved. You know, if there's a couple things that need tweaking, they will hold those off and fix those, but everything else is starting to run. So there's a lot happening. So when everything does get approved, it's not like they have to say, okay, let's begin production. Production's already begun. Now it's time to finish production. Nice. So that's already well underway. We've got a lot of those, you know, samples that have come in that look great. In the case, you won't even notice the little things that are wrong. A lot of the things that are wrong with stuff like that are usually fit. And it's actually, we make it hard on ourselves because of compatibility. So a lot of the things that happen with us that we have to go back and get them to fix is this piece that you did is not backwards compatible with all these other parts, and it needs to be. So that's a big part of what we have to force that not every toy company has to deal with, because their toys are not meant to mix and match the way that Legions are. But yeah, absolutely before the end of the year, we will get that. So this calendar year, we will get book 1, book 2, plus these PowerCon early release figures, plus the Walter the Mad figure from Legions Con. That's a nice little bump of Cosmic Legions for this first year in hand.
That's why I'm driving to Legions Con, because I will need room for the Greyborn army. That I will have the army of. Those
sounds good.
X-Files kid, those things just speak to me. Speak to me.
So looking at OxKrewe, and I brought this up earlier, you know, we've been doing obviously our teasers and everything, but this is what I brought up very, very briefly. I'll bring it back. This was the teaser that we dropped today. So, you know, obviously there's a piece of something new there. You can see the OxKrewe emblem on that yellow disc type thing. And the news was that what we're going to be doing is live from PowerCon at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the Friday. We're going to do a live broadcast. So this is, if you've ever seen any of our live broadcasts, the one we just did for All-Star 6, this is very, very similar. It will be broadcast on our YouTube channel. It's going to be 90 minutes long. So by 10:30, we will be done. I will make sure we're done. And then the pre-order for this is going to begin. So the number of figures, the cost of the figures themselves, and the duration will all be announced during this particular reveal special. But Dub, I'd love to talk a little bit with you now about kind of your guesses or wish list about what you'd like to see in this particular, if not in this wave, but maybe even beyond this wave. Because obviously this wave, we already know the setup. This is, you know, a classic ship crashes on a desolate alien planet. There are a number of survivors that have to find a way to pull together and survive not only the harsh terrain, but whatever native life forms may be on that planet. This is a science fiction type story that we've certainly seen before, and this is going to be our take on it. So that being the case, there are certain kinds of things that are unlikely to fit into this particular story. But the great thing about Cosmic Legions is there's so many different sci-fi type avenues that we can go down. There's a lot more to explore within the rings. So let's talk about what you'd love to see in this wave. You already mentioned some creatures, but also maybe some of your wish list for Cosmic as a whole.
Yeah. So that picture, when I saw that picture, it made me think of it was like an arm or shoulder of like a power loader or like a some sort of mech suit, robot suit. And maybe mech suit's the wrong term, but some sort of environmental thing that they're getting in. So different than just a space suit. I feel like a lot of or all of these characters in these are wearing just their kind of spaceship clothes, for lack of a better term, but like in the more enhanced, like, okay, I've got to not worry about I got to not worry about the environment and breathing, and I'm going to get into something. So I would love to see, especially with the modularity and the pop and swap, some sort of that, like a power loader or a mech or a thing that characters can get in, but then also some sort of tiny character. So I'll use a normal reference like an Utrom from Turtle Comics or Crank, like a really little alien type creature that has to then use a body that it can control, which could also then allow for a head to be put in a different part of the body that's not the neck. That kind of a really unique pop and swap, which I know is certainly a different type of tooling aspect and all of that. But I think that really, just like when we talked about Mythic halflings and hobbits and that, I would love to see, I think, scaled down characters, which I think can work a little easier in this line because they can be in some sort of something that's using existing parts. Yeah, I think would be cool.
We do have some comments, some other people voicing their opinions on what they'd like to see. Curtis has been very vocal that he would like to see more Legion builders in this wave and every wave. We've had some people saying they want small characters, a couple people saying they definitely want power suits. Mech type, that's been a definite request that a number of people have made.
I saw Cornboy fishing to try to get for the Mezco mech and Gomez. He's like, somebody wants the Gomez, I want the mech. I was like, oh, he's just out there fishing straight up. Like, I think we all want that mech. Like, I saw that thing. I'm like, oh, I can put every action figure I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you order one?
No. I was disciplined. I don't collect Mezco anymore. So
so you were disciplined. Well, good for you.
I have some rules. I collect too many things.
You got to have rules. Absolutely got to have rules. Luckily, I do collect Mezco Rumble Society, so it was an easy buy for me.
Do you have it yet?
I do not yet. What I did have to do is, because they released the Void Gomez early at Comic-Con, and it's the same exact figure.
Yeah.
But I have one coming in the mech, so I had to be like, because I knew I could have gone on the Cabal and been like, hey, is anyone there? Can they pick one up for me? People are so cool. I guarantee I would have gotten it at a great price. But I was very, very, respectable. What word am I looking for? Responsible. I was very responsible, and I did not ask anybody to pick one up for me. So I'm still waiting on my mech to come in.
So when Darius, when The Amazing put that video up, fortunately, I know him well enough, and we will talk on Instagram. And I sent him a message. I'm like, I know you can't talk about this in Mezco's video, but I need to know if a Legion will fit in that thing. I need to know. And he's like, oh, you can probably get it in there. I'm not telling you that officially. I'm like, oh no, oh boy.
Oh, that's awesome.
I would love to see, and I know you guys would just kill it after Slog. You guys would just kill something like that.
Yeah,
but I think the small characters are important too. I think diversity in your display is really important, and having even if it's a creature pack or a thing like that, I think it would be really cool to have smaller creatures.
Okay, yeah, everything sounds good. We're so early on in the line that it's interesting, because with Mythic, there's been so much that's done that I get excited for the possibility of things we haven't done yet. You know, the Poxus wave gave us the robed wizards. You know, if you saw the afternoon show today, they were showing off the soft goods prototypes from the factory on the factory prototype figures, and they look amazing. So checking that box was, you know, really, really important to finally get those classic robed wizards. And there's, looking at, for me, the Mythic line, there's a number of things I'd love to see. I'd love to see true rogue thief type characters.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to see smaller characters, pixies and gnomes and, you know, things like that. So there's very specific things that for everything we've done, things we still haven't. And yes, a dragon. With Cosmic, I feel the exact opposite, that we've done so little and there's so many possibilities out there that it's almost overwhelming to think what I want and what could be coming next.
I also think you get an opportunity to do, so with Mythic, like if you wanted to have environmental pieces, you know, it's like stones and it's nothing terribly exciting, but you could have crashed wreckage and, you know, as an accessory, or escape pods. That is probably a more realistic, you know, bigger vehicle type thing. That's not to say that you aren't about to show us a spaceship next week, but things that are a little more approachable than people like me, who, like, right behind this camera is the Super 7 Snake Mountain with the Thunder Tank parked underneath it. And I ordered the Cat Slayer. And I don't know.
I did see your post saying that you ordered the Cat Slayer.
Try not to get on punishment. And I've got Turtle Vans coming and his tanks. And I legitimately think I need to build a toy garage. And that's just absurd. But I would order the spaceship. I would do it. But I do think it would be cool to have, you know, doors. You know, some of that stuff I think is a little more possible as, you know, kind of add-ons, accessories. Lends itself better in the sci-fi world than the fantasy world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's 100% diorama type things. I mean, obviously I have the Crashbox stuff behind me that looks great. But yeah, those, I agree completely that having those for displays really do add a lot to it. Yeah.
Is there, so you guys worked with Crashbox on that initial, is that those types of collaborations, things that are still on, you know, on the list potentially as things?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I've mentioned before the way that happened was Eric had very specific ideas of how he wanted the images for the first Cosmic Legions wave to look. So he did some artwork. It really just showed the back wall of a cell and the colors and the grittiness. And then the actual design was Trevor and Chris from Crashbox, which we talked about this a little bit last week with Trevor. So, you know, they kind of came up with how that was going to lay out. And of course, going back and forth with Eric to make sure it met the vision he had in his head. But spoiler, you're going to see something similar, not from Crashbox, but you're going to see something similar with OxKrewe, because once again, this story, Eric has something very specific in mind. And it's been kind of fun because he had something in mind. And then I wrote all the log entries, 2 of which you've already seen. And there's things that we went through and mentioned in the logs that then became part of Eric's vision for how this was all going to lay out. So collaborations with other artists is something that we love doing. And when it's appropriate to do it, we are all totally on board for being able to do that. We've got some cool collaborative stuff coming up that people are going to be excited for.
I love that. I also feel like you just confirmed the bridge of the spaceship right there. That's the spaceship is confirmed, everyone. Spaceship confirmed.
We shall see.
7 feet long.
Oh, that's what's funny. Last week when we shared that, and everyone was like, "We're getting a ship, and that's why I said, you know, that graphic I brought up, that little white line, I was like, that's a ladder. Like, it's the ship would be massive.
You know, you have to have these conversations with your significant others, and so when Super 7 started teasing the Cat Slayer, and I walked over and I pointed to the Thundertech. I said, supposedly that's supposed to fit under the paw. She's like, no, we're not getting that. And so, and then so then you did that, and I showed her. I said, if they make a spaceship, this is the ladder. She's absolutely not. No, we cannot have that. That is the house. We have to live in that if it's to scale.
So I've obviously seen Castle Grayskull. I've seen Snake Mountain. Is Cat Slayer bigger than Snake Mountain?
Yeah, it is wider.
Okay.
I think it's similar height, but it's wider.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that's because I love the fact that everyone, Castle Grayskull was like the gem. And then the fact that Snake Mountain dwarfed that in size, and now that we're getting this even bigger piece with the Cat Slayer, oof.
I honestly, I talked about it as they were teasing it, and I just said to myself, there's no way it's under $1,000, and I'm not willing to spend that. And then when they came with the price, I'm like, oh man, that's right in the price range of that.
It is.
Maybe so. Maybe I can, and they had payments, and it makes it. I can skip some Starbucks, I guess, and makes, that future dub will either be really happy or very unhappy when that thing arrives, with the freight truck.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of those big purchases, like a lot of the HasLab stuff, it's if you don't buy it at the time that it's offered, there's a pretty steep late tax.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Which, if you do buy it and it comes in and you realize, what, this just isn't for me. I mean, as a collector, I think, this people always talk about Evil Bay and everything and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's part of collecting, in my opinion, is getting stuff, flipping stuff, having the collection, grow and reduce, and you sell some stuff to make room for new stuff and pay for new stuff. That's part of the cycle of being a healthy collector, in my opinion.
Yeah. And there's certainly a difference in raiding your local store shelves and nobody can buy it versus, hey, I put $650 down for 2 years waiting on this thing. There is a cost of money. There's all of that.
Sure.
I agree with you on that. I tell you, I see the Transformers, the Unicron HasLab, and that Jabba's sail barge. They are always over $2,000. That shows I go to always, and I don't know who's paying that for it, but those were not that much. I don't think when they came out.
No,
I've never seen that Unicron open, but I've seen it in the box a lot. That thing's got to be massive.
Yeah, I've only seen it in the box too. I've seen it at only a couple shows where it's just in that massive box there, and just, oh my goodness.
Well, once we see whatever, you're not going to reveal too much, but whatever is revealed next week, then I look forward to one-on-one following up this conversation, because I have a lot of interest in just how have the toy companies decided, I know what we're going to do. We're going to go as big as possible on things suddenly. Like, I don't know what the first one was that got it done, and everybody said, they'll pay how much? Oh, yeah, count me in. I'm in. And maybe you guys are about to do the same thing and get my money. But if not, I'm interested in that conversation because it's I don't know. It's just an interesting conversation, I think.
I would love to follow up with you. What I'll say now is we do tend to beat our own drum. We do tend to, go follow our own path, and we have a deep plan. So we'll have to see what that means.
Yeah.
So PowerCon next week, very excited for that. One of the cool things for people that are going out that have never had a chance to be at a show that we attend, I mentioned that this is one of our flagship shows. When we do Legions Con, everyone's there because it's right in our backyard. It is Legions Con. But we had such a great experience at PowerCon last year, and the studio has a deep history with Val, who runs PowerCon. So we are, almost all of us, like almost the entire studio crew, is making the trip to Columbus, Ohio. So when you come up to that table, you're going to see really all of us. I mean, all of the owners are going to be there. Obviously, myself, Chris, George, Joe, Diego, Cookie, Big Greg. I mean, everyone, Vern, everyone is going. Bill Mancuso is going to be there. So it is going to just be an absolute party of Four Horsemen team members that are going to be there to meet fellow toy fans and to just kind of geek out about this stuff for a weekend.
That's awesome. And you guys have a panel Friday too, I saw.
We do. So, yeah. So the plan is that, and it's going to be very interesting because Friday is a short day. So Friday, we start setting up Friday morning because Thursday we arrive, but goodness, after being in a car all day, the last thing we want to do is build an entire,
even on Slim Jims and hot Cheetos.
Yeah, it's so Friday we'll be setting up. The show starts at 2:00 on Friday. So Friday goes from 2 to 8. Our panel discussion is at 3:30, which is really interesting because, you know, even last year where we sold out of everything on the table all 3 days last year. Now we're bringing a lot more product this year. So the challenge to all the Legionnaires is, can you sell us out again? Because we are bringing a ton of stock.
How much product did you have last year compared to what was at Toylanta?
Compared to Toylanta at PowerCon, we probably had double.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're bringing more.
Wow.
We're bringing more than that this year. It was absolutely crazy last year. I mean, give me 1 minute. I'm going to bring something up real quick.
Yeah, I've actually never been to a PowerCon, and they used to be West Coast, I think, right?
They did. You're going to have a blast, man. So this is the map of the PowerCon floor plan, right? So they've already released this. So it's a little bit different. Last year, if you look, you know, over here to the far left where it says showroom entrance, that is where everyone's going to come in. And last year we were in this like essentially northwest corner. This year we're the exact opposite. We're over here in the northeast. We're in New England. So what's going to happen is fans are going to come in those doors. They're going to take a left, and this basically just edge of the building, edge of the room where it says Exhibit Hall C, they're going to that line's going to go all the way down there, and then it's going to come around in front of our booth. And our actual product tables are going to be facing this back wall. So that's how the queue is going to actually go, which is going to be very, very interesting to see how deep that line goes. Last year, as I said, we were at the front of the room and the line went literally all the way to the back.
It must feel good as a member of the company to know that conventions have to plan for the line.
Yeah, it's crazy. When they were explaining that, okay, well, for fire and safety code reasons, this is how we're going to have to do your line. The fact that they have to have security that leads people in and directs the line, it's amazing and incredibly humbling. Yeah. that the you know, because look, at the end of the day, we're a bunch of toy guys who are living our dreams, and the fact that fans of this property support it the way they do is just amazing.
Well, it's well earned, and you guys don't take it for granted. I mean, I think that comes across both in the way that you are, where if anybody hasn't had a chance to meet the team, they're wonderful to meet, but also just in the product itself. Like you're not for the same price point. There's a lot more in these figures than there was a couple of years ago, and it's not, you know, figures aren't double the price with, you know, here's one gun and that's it. Like it's. I think it really comes across genuine, at least from my perspective. So it's meaningful.
We try. We really try. You know, the fans treat us well, and we try to give it back to them every chance we get. So it'll be interesting because doors open at 2, but our panel's at 3:30. So The line is going to go a lot faster this year because it is, last year we had one checkout station, the gym was running, and we had to we had an iPad that we had to find all the products on the iPad and tap them one at a time. Now that we've got scan guns for everything, we can get through lines so much quicker, and we'll have 2 checkout stations. So we should be able to process orders a lot faster, but inevitably there's still going to be people at the line when the panel discussion starts. So people should definitely plan for that. If people that are going for all 3 days, which a lot of people are, something to consider is we're going to have, so I will say this, we will have Cosmic on the table all 3 days. Okay. Mythics will be there, but there'll be different stuff. So we can only bring so much product. So there's some figures that may be there Friday and they won't be there Saturday. Some different ones on Saturday, then Sunday. It's going to be different, but there's a lot of stuff to cover all 3 days. We have certain stock for all 3 days. So even if someone can only come Sunday, there's no risk that we're going to sell out of everything in the first 2 days because we've allocated a certain inventory for all 3 days, including the exclusives. So the show figures, we have an allotment for all 3 days. So if you're first in line on Sunday, you'll be able to get some of them for sure.
That's great. That's great.
But yeah, so we have a 3:30 panel that we're doing. That should be a lot of fun. That's going to be very Cosmic Legions focused. And then it'll be a mad dash when the doors close at 8 to get our private room set up to do our reveal special starting at 9 that night. And then when you come on set, anyone that comes on Friday, these figures will not be on display in the booth, but there will be something there for you to see from the new wave. Check that out. And then on Saturday, when you come back, all of the figures that we reveal on Friday will be in the case.
Awesome. So is there going to be just a vacancy in the display, or will it be something will come out and something else will go in? Or you're not going to tell me?
When you see the empty case, people are going to be like, wow. That's what I'll say.
All right. That's exciting. I'm going to see that hopefully very early, right at 2:05. I'm getting in. Well, we'll see if I get in the line. I may just come say hi first.
But beyond obviously our booth there's a lot of great exhibitors at the show. As a general toy fan yourself, I'm sure you're going to have a lot to look at, a lot to enjoy. It's like I said, I was very impressed with the show last year and seeing. I know that last year, because it's in the same room that we were in, but they only used half the room last year, and it was impressive. This year, they're using the whole room, so it's going to be a really fun event to be a part of. I can't wait to hear your impression of it.
Yeah, I've never been to a show. We don't get toy companies exhibit down here in the South. Certainly, you guys have come and like Valaversal, but it's more a booth that is selling, not truly exhibiting. Yep. So I am excited to see, because I collect a lot of NEC, I collect a lot of Super. Yep. I collect Ramen Toy, who makes a lot of unique, I mean, some of those things are there as well. But they're, and they've I think they're an interesting company. So just to see that, we get to see it with Hollywood at things like Dragon Con, where they'll have, the exact prop replicas from all the Arrowverse shows. Those will be exhibited, but we don't get to see toy companies down here. So I'm very excited just to see what that's like. I don't think I'm going to go shop, so to speak, really, in the vendors, necessarily. I mean, certainly there's some of my friends there, I'll support them, but I'm there to almost view it like it's not the right term, but like a museum, just to see the displays. And especially the folks that were just at Comic-Con, I'm sure they're going to have a lot of that stuff out on display. And I think that's interesting to get to see that kind of stuff. I've never seen it. The display you had at Toylanta was small, because most of it was a table of stuff for sale. Yep. But I remember seeing coverage of PowerCon last year, and that was an unbelievable display that you had set up there. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. in whatever iteration that it looks like.
Yep.
This year.
Yeah, we've got some cool stuff lined up, and I agree with everything you've just said. It's neat to go and see that stuff, even if you're not buying, just being around it and seeing it all on display, talking to some of the people behind it. We had a great show last year. They had a great show, so I was super excited that the buzz got out there, and companies like Super 7, like McFarlane, that weren't at the show last year got heard that it was enough of a buzz that it was worthwhile, that they're going to have a presence there this year as well. So that's all great. It was interesting because last year the one good side about selling out so quickly last year is it allowed us to really spend a lot of time on the floor. I got to walk the entire showroom with Eric a few times and talk to a lot of these other companies. Because one of the cool things is a lot of these independent toy companies that are at this show, they are also at Legions Con. So these are companies that I have a connection to, that I talk to the owners. So being able to go and see them at this show as well. And not for nothing, this gets us excited for what's going to be happening a few months down the road with Legions Con. That's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. And so this will be a quick trip for us, PowerCon, but Legions Con, we're making the full, basically a week off of work trip. So I'm really excited just to do the ancillary things, the surrounding, the hangouts in the lobby, and seeing what's going on in the hotel, and that kind of stuff. I'm excited for at Legions Con. And is there a big setup, like diorama type setup from the Horseman booth at Legions Con, or is it just there is also there?
So at Legions Con last year, so at PowerCon was where we debuted the big Mythic display that Brian Almeida did.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Legions Con, we debuted a cosmic equivalent of that, and we debuted the giant ogre. So when people walked in to the lobby, we didn't tell anybody we were working on it. The only people that saw it early, other than us, were the interns. So part of Intern for a Day is a tour of not only our studio, but we share space with a prop company. And they went, and Jim takes everyone through a tour. So the interns got to go upstairs and see. At that point, it was like all hands on deck. So it was George, Dan, Bill, and Joe were all just working crazy hours finishing the life-size Kurzog. So they got to see that thing in pieces going together. So when you walked into the lobby at Legions Con and you saw literally a 10-foot ogre, people were just like, whoa, what the heck?
I can't imagine what the hotel folks were thinking as that thing came.
They were I got to tell you, Dub, the one regret I have is that the hotel from last year was too small for us, because the hotel was tired. The elevator didn't work. Everyone likes to joke about that. But the people were so cool and so appreciative to have us there. They treated us so well that part of me was bummed that we had to leave after 1 year because it was just too small. But when we told them, when we were like, we're going to put a 10-foot ogre in the lobby, they did not bat an eyelash. They were like, they literally said, you've rented the entire hotel. You can do whatever you want.
That's awesome.
Okay, great. So Legions Con will have a number of displays, some of which you see at PowerCon, some of which will be new at Legions Con.
That's exciting. I guess at Legions Con, it starts after G-Con reveals. So you could have whatever that may be revealed there, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, so the whole weekend, obviously, we go from Intern for a Day, which is that private event, which is very much just let's hang out and have fun with fans and kind of open our doors to them for a day. And genuinely, the entire studio, no one works. The entire studio is just there for the interns to hang out, to answer questions, and to enjoy their company. Then there's the G-Con day, which is all about the reveals. So everything that's revealed at G-Con gets put on display at Legions Con. So even if you're an intern, you get invited back for G-Con, and we literally bring the prototypes out and put them on a table for people to see.
That's awesome.
But then they'll all be in a case at Legions Con. So everyone going to Legions Con can see them and take photos of them and stuff like that. And then, of course, I mean, the party starts Friday night. I say Friday night. The party Wednesday night, there will be people in the hotel lobby because they're getting ready. They've already flown in or driven in. They're getting ready for interns. So it'll be a small group, but they'll be there. Thursday, that group grows because we have a larger group of people that come for G-Con. And then Friday night, when we get to the hotel, it's just full on, absolutely crazy. Everyone having a blast, everyone just partying and looking. All the fans will be in the lobbies looking at all the exhibitors come in and bring stuff, trying to see what everybody's got, what's on display. They're looking in the doors and stuff. So it's a lot of fun with people trying to catch those peaks.
That's awesome. You'll have so at Dragon Con is a Friday through Monday event officially, but then it starts on Thursday and people are hanging out, and then it goes to Wednesday, and now it's like Monday. People start partying. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Oh, I've heard good things about Dragon Con actually.
I love Dragon. It's my hometown con. It's madness. It is a party con. It's a hotel con, and party. I don't mean necessarily in the bad way, but just a hotel con, just like Legions Con, is very different because you can leave the show floor and everybody's staying right here. You don't have to walk out into New York City and go find your hotel wherever it is. So that's I am hoping, and I am positive of it because of everything you've told me, and people told me the Legions Con is like that for a very dedicated fandom. That's going to be great.
You are going to have a blast, but it all starts next week at PowerCon. So as I mentioned, I will not be on the show next week. Just logistically, too much going on at the studio. We need that extra time for any last minute stuff. So regrettably, I will not be on, but I will be on next Friday, of course, helping with the presentation of the Cosmic Legions OxKrewe Book 1 Thraxxon Wave. So that again is at 9 p.m. Eastern next Friday on the Four Horsemen's YouTube channel. The week after, I will be back kind of recapping everything we saw, getting some reactions, and talking about all the events from PowerCon. Dub, you have anything else that you want to talk about or cover before we call it an evening?
No, I don't think so. I'm excited to see you next week, see the team next week, and just hang out. And Columbus is a very central location. So I think if you're on the fence, it's worth a drive. We're driving 8 hours to go. It's worth a drive. And even if you don't need any figures, it's even more worth a drive to come say hi to everybody and be around like-minded people. I would recommend it. I know a lot of people in fandom hesitate to get involved deeper in fandom because maybe you've had bad experiences. This is a really safe community. And I would encourage you to reach out.
The amount of people that have come out and said that they have extreme social anxiety, but being around this community feels so different is incredible. You are right. It's a nice central location. For anyone that hasn't been to Columbus, it's actually a really nice little town. It's a college town. Right outside of the convention center, there was like a nice marketplace with shops and restaurants and everything. We hung out, we parked our car and just walked all weekend, felt safe the entire time, felt comfortable the entire time. So I agree with you. If you are on the fence and it's feasible for you to go, there are still tickets available. You can get them at thepower-con.com. Other than that,
last I checked, I think the exclusive is still available with a ticket. I think they do still have some. At least last I checked, in person. They may be gone now, but a couple weeks ago it was.
Yeah, when I talked to them recently, the Demistros figure. So the way PowerCon does their, like that, it's a good point. That Demistros that we did, that will not be available at our table. That was done specifically for PowerCon. So they are the ones handling that sales. They did everything by pre-order. If you pre-ordered it as an attendee, you'll pick it up at the show. I do believe you are correct. I think they had a very small number, but they did still have some of Demistros, and certainly they have some of the other exclusives from other companies as well. Dub, thank you very much. You said that we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to recap all of this. So I look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you, everyone. I will talk to you in a few weeks, unless you're going to PowerCon, and then I will talk to you next week. See you then.